Welcome to Nancy Today. Today I'm going to teach you something quite elementary. You may already know this, so if you know it, well, just go with us here. Okay, there are many kinds of trees here. Notice that. Some have green and some have yellow. Some have orange leaves. There are not all trees are not the same. Okay, there's whole university educations based on that. There are, the school of forestry or whatever. Okay, let's look at some trees. Okay. Now here we have this kind of bark. Look at that. See how it goes up and down, and there are ridges. Now it's not too thick. This bark, you see here on the edge, it's not too thick. Okay, so this is one kind of a tree. Look up. What do you think it is? Okay, we're not really going to get into identifying all the trees, but notice that it's got needles on it, green needles. Now, that means it's going to be green all year. It's some kind of an evergreen. What do you think it is? Now, there is evidence. Let's look at the evidence. Now, we have here this kind of leaf. Did that come from this tree? Let's look up and check it out. No. This one has those green needles. This is a leaf. See? Leaf. Two leaves. They're attached together. They didn't grow that way. Okay, here we go. Here is what those green leaves look like after a while. The inside, notice here. Okay, here we have a branch. See all those green leaves? Okay, then there's nothing here. But then at the very last bit, see this last one? I'll put it against the sky. See that? It's brown. Okay, what happens on these trees is the inner needles fall off. So you end up with only at the tips are your needles. Okay, so this is what falls off. This is pine needles. Okay, these are pretty short. See, they're only about, what is that? I don't know. You can see how long it is. Okay, those are short needles, and if you look up, you might be able to tell which kind. But I'm just going to suffice it to say this is a pine tree. There's lots of varieties. There's long needles, there's short needles, there's white ones, and different things. Well, not all the way white. Okay, so we have this tree, then we've decided it's a pine tree. Okay, now let's look at this one. Is this a pine tree? Let's look at this bark. Look at this bark. This bark is narrow. You see how this goes up and down too, but see how far these stick out. You see this? Well, this one's falling out, so you can really see that one. See how thick that is. Now it's got lichen growing on it. Moss. Let's look up. I don't see any needles on there, or leaves. Now that's telling you a few things. One is it's a deciduous tree. It's going to be bare all winter. But another thing that you can find out is on the ground around the tree are the leaves from that tree. So here we have, let's look at the kinds of leaves we have. We have this kind, and we have this kind, and we have this kind. See how different that is? Those have rounded. This has deep grooves. These are not as deep. See, and we also have pine needles here. Okay, so now this is another one here. So under this tree, you have many kinds of leaves. So the best thing to do to be absolutely sure is you go get a book and you look up this kind of bark. Skinny and long pieces. Let's look at this one again. You see? You see how this one was? This was not skinny and long at all. See, the bark is different. The bark and the needles, or the bark and the leaves, are going to differ for each other. But because you're in a forest where there's many kinds of trees, it's quite hard to tell which leaf came from which tree. Okay, but you can tell that there are some here. Now, I'm not going to go into which kind is which because I'm going to get confused, and so will you. Okay, now look at this. This kind of tree has a very smooth bark. Look at that. has a few little cracks here, but it's very smooth. And underneath this tree, let's see what kind of leaves we have under here. You see? Many different kinds. You've got these round ones, or oblong. Again, you've got those. And you've got these little ones. You've got groups of little ones. And you've got bigger ones. And you've got very big ones. So what came off of this tree? Well, one way to find out is to look up this kind of bark. Also, you can notice, are the branches right across from each other? Are they on this side, and then this side, and then this side, and then this side all the way up? But you can also look up all these leaves and see which kind of leaf goes with this kind of bark. And that will tell you what kind of tree it is. It could be a beech. Beeches are smooth, but there might be other ones that are smooth that I don't know about. Okay, now let's look at this bark. See, this one is a lot like that one there. It doesn't have any leaves on it, but the leaves are on the ground. Now over here, we have little bushes. You probably can't see this, but this is a leaf on a bush. Now this is not going to be a tree. It'll never be a tree. It's too small. It's too bushy at the bottom. You can't even see it on here. But those you could confuse with the other ones. Whereas this will be a tree. You see this? This is going to be one of those big pine trees. See, there's white on there? That gives you a clue. Is it a white pine? It's short-needled? Check that out. Okay, now look at this one. There's huge leaves like this all over the woods. So this, you know, is going to be a tree. Whereas this looks like that bush we were just at. Trees come in all sizes and shapes. Well, I'm just starting you out on that because it's really fun when you get in the woods. If you've got a place to sit, like my wonderful rock here, and you start sitting down and you just sit there and you don't expect anything at all. You just sit here. Let me get over here. Okay, you just sit here and you start observing from where you're sitting. Let's see, what can we see? In the woods, we see different kinds of bark, different kinds of leaves, different heights. Now you notice how this is all short, bushy stuff. None of that is in there. Now why? So you can start wondering things like that. Look up there. See all those wires? What does that tell you? Well, sometime they had to remove some trees and put some wires in here. So this stuff is what has grown up underneath the wires. One day they'll probably come along and cut it down again so that it doesn't get into the wires and wreck them. And you see all those logs in the woods. Now you might wonder, gee, are those the trees that were cut down because of these wires? And you can find out. You'd think, just looking at this sort of stuff, that there's no way to know. But you can find out. There's lots of evidence out here of things that have happened in the past. It's not just a woods. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, here we have a log. But look at that. It has been cut. Definitely been cut. So this is not from a dead tree that just fell. Or is it? Let's look at the other end of it. Look at that. Now those are the roots. What's left of the roots are sticking out. That means it was dead when it fell. So this gives you a hint that this tree, this was cut by a person that needed firewood. Okay, let's go over here. Here's another one that's been cut on both ends. Now here are the branches. See all this pile of branches? You can sort of figure out that those branches were the top of this tree. It fell down. Part of it was used. Part of it wasn't. Perhaps because this is a rotten part and they thought it wouldn't make very good firewood. And then they did take some of these. Now, it probably didn't have anything to do with the wires. There's more dead things here. Okay, I think I've told you enough about bark, leaves, how to find out what's going on, and just sitting around and observing. You can learn a whole lot. Well, have a fun day. Enjoy the woods. Bye.